I'd now like to introduce Mel Robinson. Mel was born and raised locally with a mixed farming background. Mel gained an apprenticeship in Wangaratta as an earth-moving and heavy machinery vehicle diesel mechanic. This became his pathway into a 48-year, and still counting, working a career with mechanical breakdowns on trucks and coaches over much of Australia. During the early years, most of the work was done outdoors, working on sites such as Dartmouth and Googong dams. Mel experienced several, I'm sure many more than several, different workshop environments that he was working in, but they were never quite ideal. He wanted to construct a facility and enterprise that was more user-friendly and economical. He is still creating ideas for future efficiency projects. So please welcome Mel Robinson, owner of Robinson's Truck and Coach Maintenance.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. You'll have to excuse my voice. It's a little bit husky and I think old age has set in. Thank you. Yes, I'm very humbled to be here today and be invited here in the presence of so much intelligence and knowledge and people know a lot more about it than what I do. Particularly our professors and other who are here from Canberra, the ANU, but also the Mayor. That's an honour. I met him today, first time. And I believe we have other mayors as well, which is good to see. Hopefully that message will get through to some of the councils of what we're trying to do in private enterprise. So, yeah. And also the other keynote speakers, I'd just like to, yeah, very, very interesting. It's good. I think we're all on the same page. And I'd also like to thank Emma Amory for launching me into this arena. Emma, you got a lot to answer to. Some of the things that the professors have spoken about yesterday, I was here last night for the tea, and the graphs are there and all the information is there for us all to digest, I suppose. But my personal launching pad into it was to have a financially beneficial business enterprise that I could see in the future the cost of power going up and all that. So the climate change science to many people has become an industry now. Sustainability has become an industry in my mind. And there's a lot of people out there who will sell you stuff. There's a lot of rubbish out there, a lot of good stuff out there, a lot of good ideas, a lot of people who are trying to just get in on the bandwagon for financial returns. So you've got to make, and I have gone and done a bit of research and make my own decisions on how I want to set up my own business. So that's my personal income is what I'm in charge of. And there's a lot of benefits when we make these decisions of investment for clean, efficient power and efficiencies around the workshop. You'll have to pardon me if I go into my notes a little bit because I'm not as eloquent as others. Let's get that out. Okay, my journey began with a decision in the late 90s to build my own truck and coach repair workshop, and my business is it's not known to be a very clean environment. If you know trucks and coaches, they can be pretty dirty old things to work on. And it's not so much in the cleaning of them, but the waste products, so forth and so on to go with it. But also is the environment for myself and my workers. So when I bought this block of land, the City Council in their wisdom tried to put me over there, but none of them really suited what I wanted. And I found this block of land out the west side of Wangaratta. I thought, yeah, that's right. And I got thinking about, there's the east, there's the west. The sun rises, sunsets, lights going that way, if the shed's facing this way with the doors open, then skylighting, natural lighting through the roof with clear, what do you call the stuff? Clear roofing, so that stuff. And so I've got panels of that right through my roof. My lights are very rarely on, except on a dark day or night time. I have very natural lighting, so I've included that into the design of the shed. And this is good when you can start from scratch. When you have an existing property, you may have a few issues trying to develop that. That's just one thing, was what I call the aspect of the building. Also then you look at the general wind direction. Usually our wind comes from the north or the west, so if you've got big doors open, you don't have a howling wind coming through or hot air, you try to block it as much as you can. But then on the west side it gets very hot. Now on that side's where my offices are and staff room. They become a bit of a buffer. But then on the outside I've put rainwater tanks. They shade the west side of the building. That's helping with the air conditioning of the offices and the staff room and all that. So it all sort of works in together if you think about it. And a lot of these things were just a natural progression. So I sort of, I've done it and it works. And it's just an idea that if someone else was going out to build their shed, is to look at these little things. So when I designed the shed, it was done by a local chap, Bluey Rollins, who's got called Freedom of Design. We went through everything. So the height, the natural lighting, water catchment, positioning of the offices, positions of the tanks for the water, and the internal lining. I lined the inside of the shed so it became like a little air barrier to protect from the heat from a tin shed. You know, they get very hot in summer. So we've done all that. Now the catchment for power. I wanted solar. The bills are pretty high. So I got a good feed-in tariff of 66 cents, which I still have, which I believe expires in 2024. That's where my next ambitions lead to, where in 2024, and I've been talking to my electrician about this, that's when I'll be looking at the battery packs for utilising power solar catchment to provide probably 80 to 90% of the power for my workshop. My biggest user of the power are the big compressors and the welders. So we're designing a system where the grid will top up our power supply to run those, because they're a heavy load and batteries at this stage can't handle it. So I'm looking at the setup where now the most efficient, where I'll still keep my feed in, even if the feed-in tariff drops to 5 cents, I'll still keep that going, but then have other systems in place to run the lights, the PowerPoints and all the other office and all that sort of thing, just to try and keep it so to a minimum. But what I'm looking at is, if it's only 5 cents feedback in, it's not much, but it'd be enough to compensate for the compressors and the welders. So the financial gain will be along the lines of the proper utilisation of all those solar panels I'm going to have on the roof. Although there's an initial investment, I don't believe that even comes into it in my account. A lot of people think, oh yeah, no, an accountant will tell you it's not financially viable. I say he's wrong. I believe that if I go and spend $16,000 on a battery pack, which I've done, which feeds my pressure pump for my water supply, I hope there's no Northeast Water people here, is there? Because the pressure out there at my place is terrible. It's not enough to run my steam cleaner. And they say if they bump the pressure up, all the lines are going to burst. Rocket science. Okay, so right, I've put in my own system. It's a battery-powered pressure pump, and that's all it does. Provides me with water from my 68,000 litres of water supply. And so I've got good water pressure, reliable water source, and I'm self-sufficient. No service fees for water supply, only fire service levy. No bills for water consumption, you know. So that $16,000 investment is a 7-year, I've worked it out, about a 7-year return to get that back. So like my power at the moment has been, it was a 4-year return. It's been in for 7 years now. So now it's more than paid for itself. So financially, I think I'm well ahead. And I think there are a lot more, you know, I don't listen to a lot of bean counters. I make my own decisions a lot of the time. We get into waste control. And the chap over here was saying before about trying to get old heads to think about not just throwing it in the bin, when I've got waste for scrap metal, aluminium, so forth and so on, that's where the aluminium goes, that's where the metal goes, it gets sorted, we sell it. That pays for the landfill waste, which is very minimal. We keep our landfill down to a minimum, and Like I said, the sale of scrap metal and recyclables covers it. So there's another financial gain for us in our industry. Doesn't work for everybody. No one anymore, but I have installed at my place, I don't know whether the photos have been up there, that's a photo of the boiler. I haven't covered that yet. We do have floor heating in that shed for the comfort of old people like myself and my staff. That's a Dutch-fired boiler we imported. Now, a lot of people say you can't go around burning sump oil. I say, well, I do. It's Euro 5. There's no smoke. And the ash is taken away and it's disposed of down at Laverton. I don't know what they do with it. Probably burn it, I don't know. But we get disposed of. There's only about a bucket full of ash will come out of 3 weeks of burning of sump oil. You could burn 2,000 litres of sump oil and you'll fit that much ash in a bucket out of the waste. It's a fantastic machine. Currently my floor is at 22 degrees all the time. It's what it does, it heats up water. It's pretty much a big hot water service. So it's just continually cycles warm water through coils in the floor, which we built in the original design of the shed. Works beautifully. I love it. So do the staff. My secretary took some of these pictures. There's a few other ones, I believe, but she did take a picture. She's got pink overalls, Jan, and I haven't been flicking through, have I? And she's laying on the floor in her pink overalls taking photos of the LED lights. And so we've just, through a local program, and Emma's was that involved through, convinced me to go and talk to a chap. And the whole workshop, every single light through the workshop is now LED. And I'm yet to see the results of the power bill for winter when we use most of our lighting. That's coming along now. I'll see the results in the next power bill, I think. Well, actually, we don't have a power bill. We're in credit at the moment, but yeah. Rainwater tanks, that's 3 of them. There's 2 more on another facility. That's in total 68. That's my secretary took that laying on her back in pink overalls. She's I don't know what I'd do without her. What else have we got up here? I'm just looking up new ideas all the time. I'm a bit like the bloke off the castle, Daryl Koenig, and I stand out the back and try to think up new ideas all the time. There's a local colony of magpies have moved under the rafters and they have a poopathon every night. Instead of going living in a gum tree now, they live in the rafters of my workshop. I don't really have much more to can say about what I have done, but I'm very pleased with the results of what I have done. And I think my son, who will take on the business, hopefully, I'll plan to retire, but not retire, and keep an eye on things and keep coming up with new ideas to make this little workshop more progressive. Thank you.